Well, this is day nine of no electricity. Every street around me has electricity. The street that parallels behind, the street that parallels in front, the bottom of the street past the top of the cul-de-sac at the top of the street, they all have power. They've had power for a couple of days now. And this street, and only this street in the entire, nearby area, has no power. There are 36 customers on this street, quite a few of them young families, so we're probably talking easily 100 people, maybe 120, that have not had electricity other than the electricity they can make themselves through generators for 9 days. And we are not alone. There are over 20,000 customers on this island who still have no power. Some people, the reason for their having no power, or for them having no power, is fairly obvious. There's maybe massive trees and poles down and that kind of thing. But in our case, there is no such obvious reason to have no power. There's no trees down anymore across any of our wires. The places where trees did come across the wires, within a couple of days, local on the street, people removed those trees. They were gone. There is a circuit breaker at the bottom of the street that, if it were tripped into place, would probably energize the street. There are some things to do first, a few wire maintenance things after the tree blowdown, but there's no other major reason why there's no power on this street. And that's the part that gets frustrating. I'm trying to maintain calm, but after 9 days of, running to the gas station, spending an ungodly amount of money to put gas in the generator, thank God I have a generator. And thank God I can share the generator. But good grief, this is just getting maddening. The first few days when everybody was out, you were all in a collective group of, we're in this together. We're going to get through it. And we are. But then when other people start getting picked off and chosen, it's like getting chosen to play on a sports team or something. How do you feel when you're last? And I'm getting to that feeling now. There are, I think, some 85,000 total customers of the power utility here in this island. And now we're down to a little over 20,000 that still don't have power. So all 20,000 of us, I'm sure, are feeling like I am, which is, what the heck? Like, what's going on here? And who do we contact? Where's the information? And that's one of the other problems. We have a power utility that is obviously doing its best. They've called in crews from Canada and the United States, from all across the country. There's trucks everywhere, well, except here, but there's trucks everywhere doing things and trying to get people back on. And that's awesome. And they're doing all that they possibly can. And they're worn to a frazzle. I know that. But, for instance, this is one example of what I think is a bad decision. Every day during this disaster, which is what it is, we've had daily briefings from all of our officials. Usually around 2:30 in the afternoon, they get on, they're on social media, and then the things they say are picked up and put on the evening news. But today is a Sunday morning. Yesterday was a Saturday. Saturday, there was no briefing. Did things change dramatically that we needed a briefing on Friday, but we don't need a briefing on Saturday? No. It's probably because those poor people that do those briefings, they need a rest. But guess what? I need a rest too. And I can't rest from this. I have become married to the generator. I'm the husband of the generator. I'm caring for it. I'm feeding it. I'm looking at it. I'm checking its oil. I'm putting gas in it. I'm doing all the things you need to do because it provides things for me and for my neighbor. So that's fine. I'm so glad that I have one. I'm so glad that several years ago I decided that this would be an investment that might bear fruit someday. Hopefully not, but for a couple of days, if I needed power, I could get by. And I had enough gas for a couple of days when this all started. But I've been back to the gas station 3 times with lots of jugs and a huge amount of money. It cost close to $50 a day to run the generator, and I don't even run it full time. It's not on right now. I'm sitting in a dark living room, just waiting to start the generator. Today is the first day I can actually delay the start of the generator because my next door neighbor is not getting up at the crack of dawn to go and do his job, and he's trying to help out his employer too, get some potatoes harvested before they go bad. So everybody's up against it. I know there's 2 parts of my brain that are at war right now. The part that is the logical part understands that, hey, there's still a quarter or a fifth of the people on this island that are in the dark, and there's a fairly good statistical chance that I would be in that group. So that part is logically still processing that information. But the other part of my brain, the lower part, I'm sure, is the animal part, where you think survival, you think what else would I need to do? What could I do to lash out? And that's what I want to do. I want to lash out, because human beings make these decisions about who gets power and who doesn't. It's like all those terrible dystopian movies where, you're just a cog in the machine and the machine just runs you over. So I want to get at those humans. I want to shake them by the shoulders and ask them WTF. And not just for me, but for all of us that are still in our situation. How could we allow ourselves to maintain a power grid that has turned out to be so vulnerable to a windstorm? It was a terrible windstorm, for sure, but to have so much devastation to the power system, with so many trees, big trees, going next to very big and important power lines, how do we allow that to happen? And someone has to be accountable for that. I'm not sure it's a politician, I'm not sure it's the company, but just overall, as a group of people who live on this island, we need to have a day of reckoning. When this is all said and done, let's keep fixing stuff, let's get everybody back on first. But at some point down the road, there will be hell to pay for anyone who allowed this to be in this situation in the first place. And I am one of those people who likes to go through memos and go through documents and do access to information requests and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, the power utility is a private company, so we'll probably never know the boardroom discussions that took place in the background. But as much as I am not in favor of the government owning things, I think in this case, if we are ever going to get accountability in the power utility, I think the government needs to assume it. I think they need to take it over, purchase it, whatever has to happen, and then the people who run it next time will be accountable to me as a voter and as a citizen, as a taxpayer. Right now, we're all powerless. We're powerless in 2 ways. We're powerless, in this case, I got no friggin' power, but we're also powerless because we have no ability to change anything of this situation that's going on right now. If Maritime Electric would call me up and say, Brent, we could get your power on quicker if you did this, this, and this, I'd be gone. I'd be doing it, whatever that is. But to sit here absolutely helpless, waiting for someone else to decide when it's time to turn my street back on, is just something that after 9 days is really, really wearing me down. And this is a bit of a rant. There's no... there's no thing I can do right now other than share my absolute and total utter frustration and pledge myself to doing whatever I need to do to bring some accountability, at least in my own peace of mind, so that 50 years from now or 20 years from now, this won't happen again to this degree, ever. We'll do important things. We have to. Get rid of trees. Any tree near a power line, in my view, get rid of it. I love trees. Trees are great. They help with carbon CO2. They take it in and they chug out oxygen, which is something we need. We love trees. I'm very upset with what Brazil is doing to its rainforest. However, trees that are close to power lines that can fall across power lines, they just have to be gotten rid of. If people want to put a big tall tree next to their house and it falls on their house, I really don't feel as bad about that. But a tree next to a power line, especially a power line that services an entire neighborhood or an entire subdivision, I think that's something that just has to be thought of right now. Go. Like, get the chainsaws out for the next 15 years. Get the chainsaws out and get rid of every tree near our power lines. Now, I'm going off on a tangent, but I happen to think that power lines up in the air on poles is probably still the best idea. People have talked in these stupid press conferences, reporters, these intelligent reporters that are 20 years old have asked, 60-year-old people, why don't we just bury them? Just, dig a trench, put the power lines in the trench. Then next time there's a storm, they won't get blown over. That may be true, but if the power does fail for some reason, now you've got a backhoe or worse, and you've got to dig around in the ground to try to find the issue, the problem. So it's not as easy as it sounds, and it's probably multiple times more expensive to do it that way. You might survive the odd storm better, but you'd have probably horrendous ongoing maintenance costs for underground buried power. So that's just an observation. I'm not a scientist. I really don't know, but that's just an observation. So I think, we're doing it as well as we can probably do it, but it's still vulnerable up there because of the things that can fall across those wires. So we have to get rid of those things. So that would be my job one is getting the power back on in the street for me, but job two is, I don't know, just accountability somehow, somewhere. Back in my previous life, I was the chairman of an public accounts committee in another province, where we had people that would come in front of the committee and describe how their department did financially, or how their agency did financially in the previous fiscal year. We would go over their books, their accounting. We would ask questions, some of them difficult questions, and they would have to come up with answers that were hopefully satisfactory. And did we affect a lot of change in that committee? Probably not. However, the people running these departments knew that at least once a year, maybe on a Tuesday, they're going to be brought into the committee, they're going to be sat down and told to explain themselves, good or bad, as to how their department did over the previous year. And right now, that same accountability to the public for the power utility is not there. It's not been set up that way. There's a large privately held corporation that distributes power in several provinces, and this is one of them. And I'm sure they have internal corporate accountability, but that is not the same, because internal corporate accountability, because, corporations take this very seriously. That's what they'll tell you. That's what their PR people will tell you. Oh, they take this very seriously. And I'm sure they do. But not in a way that brings accountability and shines a light on that accountability for the public. So, rant is over. I feel a little better just having made this video. I'm not even sure if I'm going to post it, but I probably will. And now it's time for me to go out and start the generator again on day 9 of having no power in what is supposed to be a civilized country. So I'll maintain my civility for now, and we'll hope for the lights to come on today. So there we have it, folks. Day 9 dawns, and I'll turn it around a bit, maybe get a little more light here. The generator's running. I have to make another run for gas sometime this morning. I hope wherever you are, if you're able to watch this, even without your power, that you don't feel alone.